Today, we're talking about a topic that is sure to interest everyone: how to deal with bad weather when you're at anchor. To make this video, we stayed several days here in Cala dei Sardi, waiting for some really strong wind. It finally arrived, and we were able to shoot our video. With us, we have an exceptional skipper. Follow me. Let's go meet him.
Allora, Carlo.
So, Carlo, I saw that right now it's about 27 to 30 knots, but tonight we're expecting 40 to 45, maybe even stronger gusts. So, since it's still daylight, let's go find a roadstead and get the boat ready for the night.
Let's go get a good spot for tonight.
As you've gathered, the theme of this I-Sail lesson is how to deal with strong wind when at anchor in a roadstead. The day is perfect. There are 30 knots of wind, and for tonight, we're expecting 40 to 45 knots of north-northeast. To talk about this topic, a topic that is no doubt of interest to all of you, I invited what I consider to be a great skipper, Carlo Maiwald of the Altura Sailing School. Hi, Carlo.
Hello, Maurizio.
Altura is one of the best schools in Rome, and it's also one of the most fun, because they organize lots of things, from week-long sailing courses to cruises around the world. Before I go and talk to Carlo, I want to show you for a few seconds some images of Cala dei Sardi. The NSS group, which owns Marina di Sardi, is the group that makes these videos of ours possible, because they're the ones who provide us with all the logistics, which are often quite complicated so that we can shoot our videos. See you in a few seconds. Carlo, I see you've already chosen your roadstead we're going in. On what basis did you choose it? What did you look for?
I looked for a deep roadstead with ample protection from multiple directions. So if there should be a little wind rotation at night, it won't cause me any problem. Then I considered the type of bottom. Compact sand or mud ensures a strong hold in the water.
The seabed is very important in the roadstead you choose to stay in, because you need the anchor to hold. Is the shape of the land also important in choosing the roadstead?
It's very important. I definitely prefer a slightly higher coastline that protects me from the wind over a shallow beach. But beware of sheer cliffs, because they can generate fall winds that create annoying gusts at night.
So if there's a very high and sheer cliff, the wind goes above, let's say 30 knots. When it comes over, it goes down because there's less pressure, so it gets sucked down, and in falling, it accelerates, and it can accelerate very much. If it's above 30, when it comes down, it can be 40, even 45 knots. It's not dangerous because it doesn't raise waves. There's no fetch. We're just off the coast. However, we have to be ready to handle gusts of that intensity. Now we're in the roadstead. We get ready, go upwind, drop the sails, and start to see what we're doing so we can face the night.
Andiamo. Okay. Andiamo.
We've lowered the mainsail, closed the furling, and lowered the anchor. Carlo, why did you drop anchor right here?
I chose this place because there are 6 meters of bottom, good holding sand. So with 50 meters of chain, it guarantees me a good hold. Then, if the wind increases this evening, we will give out a little more road.
Perfect. As you can see, what's written in many boat manuals is not always right. They say 3 times, 4 times the bottom, up to 5 or 6 is enough. No. If I'm in a roadstead, and the roadstead allows me, that is, it's a very large roadstead and there are few boats, and I assure you that when there are 30 knots in a roadstead, there won't be many boats. I go and lower a lot of chain. In this case, 6 meters of bottom, 50 meters already lowered, means I'm at about 9 times the bottom. But tonight, if the wind picks up, and it will pick up, we'll go and give out even more chain. We can even get to the end of the chain. That is, since the more chain we have in the water, the more stable we are. When 45, 50 knots arrive tonight, the boat will be pushed back hard and stretch the chain. This chain, when stretched, will rise. If the chain is very long, this movement will never transfer to the anchor. But if, on the other hand, the chain isn't long enough and the movement reaches the anchor, it's able to make the anchor rise, and the anchor is likely to drag. So I recommend lots of chain. Carlo, I can get to the end of the chain. However, before I do that it's better, of course, to make sure that the chain is tied to the boat. Otherwise, I'm going to lose the whole thing. But how should it be tied to the boat?
Be careful that the chain is not connected to the boat with a carabiner or shackle that might have oxidized. Check that there is a rope so that in an emergency, I can cut it. I can free myself and then return to retrieve everything. If you have time, attach a fender or buoy to the chain when you leave it so that you can come back and find it easily.
It can always happen. An extraordinary event can always happen that forces you to leave the roadstead in a hurry. You don't have time to pull up 50, 60, 70 meters of chain. The only thing you can do is let it go. So if you have a rope that connects the chain to the boat, a quick cut allows you to take the boat to safety. Otherwise, we'd have to wait while we pull up the chain and anchor, and meantime, the situation around us can get much worse. Now we have our anchor, we have our chain, the boat is secure. Let's go get ready for tonight. We'll start from the bow, and step by step, we'll get to the stern. Carlo, what's the first thing to do?
The first thing is definitely to loosen the tension of the anchor windlass chain so that the gears do not suffer. To do this, we will use a rope, and it doesn't need to be too long. As you can see, I've chosen a diameter that probably won't go through the chain link, but we're going to make a draft knot anyway. The draft knot has the advantage of hugging the chain and not slipping. The top in this case has no wear.
Also, if you run it through the chain link, it rubs and gets worn, and might even break. As Carlo is saying, with this system, when the wind comes in very strong gusts and snaps the boat back, those movements don't transfer to the windlass. Instead, they'll pull on the rope. Carlo did it with one line, but this system can also be done with two lines. Both lines hitch on the chain at some point. One goes to the port side and one goes to the starboard, to the cleat. Now, the second step, what is it?
Remaining in the forward area, I would go and secure the rolled jib. There are instances where there is a gust which unintentionally opens the jib, so I'll go and secure it with another piece of rope.
If it opens, it starts flapping violently until it tears. In some Gale footage, you see these boats in the roadstead with these jibs that have torn to shreds because the wind has managed to get in. It has crept in, it's opened the sail, and by dint of flapping, it has torn it to shreds. So Carlo secures it tightly so that the wind can't open it anymore. We fixed the chain, we fixed our jib. Now what?
Now the tender. We don't leave the tender in the water because if we have to let go of the moorings at night in a hurry, we don't have time to load it on board, but we can pull it up to safety with a halyard without much effort. Then we tie it on the deckhouse. Very important thing, it has to be well tied. It is also to be away from the forward sea of the anchor locker and any sail compartment because it should not interfere with any maneuver. Now let's go tie down the tender. I will take advantage of a line. Fix the first line at a strong point on the boat. Obviously, each tender will have its own, but I will also take advantage of the tender's eye bolts so that the line cannot slip. To increase the tension, I built a small hoist. Here it is down here. I find another strong point and tie it up.
The hoist has the property of dividing by two the force needed to do one thing for each turn you do. So what he's done divides by two the force he needs to push down. It's as if he used twice the force. In fact, the reality is this. The tender no longer moves. It's absolutely fixed to the deck. If we do this at the stern too, this tender is perfectly secured. Now, let's move to midship. What are we going to check?
Let's close the mainsail cover and make sure the mainsail does not unintentionally open overnight or during particularly violent gusts.
Let's go. Carlo, what are you doing with the mainsail?
First, let's go and close the mainsail lazy bag so that it can't open. Close all the hooks or the zipper. Then let's go put a line tying it around the boom to make sure it doesn't open in really strong gusts.
I think this is a really very important thing. Once you have everything closed, go and reinforce the closure with a line down the length of the boom so that even the strongest gusts, even if they manage to get in, won't be able to open the lazy bag and consequently damage it. With some really strong wind, I often see the mainsail left bare. Be careful, because the mainsail can get damaged. The wind gets inside, starts to lift it up, starts to whip it around, and the mainsail gets damaged. Especially if you leave the boat to go ashore, the mainsail must be closed and tied. We checked the mainsail, tied it tightly and closed it. Now what do we check?
Now let's close the canopy. The awning is useless in the wind. It could be torn, and more importantly, it could create a small sail effect that increases our swing, so it is useless to keep it open.
There are canopies, especially on newer boats, that are fixed. You can't take them off, and so they stay open. But these canopies, with the steel structure that folds back, these you have to take off, especially if they're a little bit old. Because the wind goes under, it swells them, and in some cases it rips them apart. So you fold them back, you close them like this. And how do we tie them?
There you go. We're going to salami it.
That's right. Let's make a sausage of it. See how he does it? It goes underneath and back inside. It's all circles connected from the top. And now he secures the last circle. This one won't open anymore. There's no way to get it open. It is perfectly secured. Another thing, however, that doesn't have to do with part of the boat, but with something equally, if not more important, the crew. We often find ourselves sailing with a crew that's not made up of experienced sailors. It's made up of people who are on vacation. People who know little about sailing, who enjoy it because it's all new. Everything is a discovery. But when I get to the roadstead and they start to see that I'm worrying about one thing, then another, they realize that there's something going on, that the situation is a bit critical. Carlo, how do you handle it?
I always recommend involving them, making them understand what is going on. I take the reference points ashore to see if the boat is dragging. I check the sounder to see if the depth changes. I explain it to them and get them to help me as well, so that they are participating. I look for the most cooperative and most efficient ones and explain to them how the anchor windlass works, so that in case of an emergency, even at night, they can give me a hand in hoisting the anchor, because it is not certain that the skipper can make it alone in the more challenging conditions. When people are aware, they handle the situation better.
What danger do we face in this situation in the roadstead?
The roadstead is not dangerous if we have prepared the boat to the best of our ability, but there can be critical moments. A critical moment is if other boats that are windward drag anchor and come towards us. In that case, a dangerous situation can be created. I always set up fenders for safety so that damage can more easily be avoided.
In any case, even in the case that a boat drags and comes toward us, to the crew, there is no danger. There is danger only to the boat. You can damage the boat, but the crew is perfectly safe. They don't run any risk, and you have to try to make that clear to your crew. However, are there particular situations that can actually become dangerous?
The biggest problem in the roadstead is when there are thunderstorms. If I notice that with clear skies, a front is approaching, and even with clear skies, I see lightning, at that moment, I definitely have to raise my level of attention. With thunderstorms, the wind can rotate. It can violently increase in intensity and change direction, so it creates a dangerous situation.
Attenzione pure perché...
Be careful, also because the storm brings lightning, and lightning is really dangerous. What do I do to try to get the crew to safety in that case?
Appropriate clothing, and we move away from the coast so that we do not stay close to hazards. All crew wear shoes as a protection from lightning strikes, and we move away from the coast, even with dry sails or reduced sails.
and we try not to let them touch metal objects. So I recommend shoes, possibly gloves, and don't lean, don't hold on to metal parts. With that, I think we've given you a comprehensive overview of what it's like to face a gale in a roadstead. I hope you'll never have to experience this situation. So thanks to Carlo Maiwald.
Thank you, Maurizio.
I'd like to remind you that Carlo Maiwald is with the Altura Sailing School, which is one of the best schools in Rome, and organizes both vocational and training cruises. I'd also like to thank NSS Charter for providing us with this Oceanus 46.1 and the support catamaran out front. Our appointment is at the next video of SVN Network.
Solo della net.